Pasta Jardula, Convo Couch here. Wanted to have a little quick talk about what's going on with our elections lately, because I'm not going to stop talking about this subject until through the election, after the election. I'm not going to stop talking about this subject until we get it straight. It's one of my life goals. It's really important. I think without fair elections, we really don't have anything. And there's been some great news the other day, and it might not be happy for some because it came from, once again, the Republican side. AG Barr, William Barr, our Attorney General, went on CNN to talk to Wolf Blitzer about the fundamental issue, saying and quoting that it's really wrong of sorts that we're not talking about the fundamental issue when it comes to mail-in ballots, because it is a serious problem. Take a look what he had to say. We'll play it real quick, and then we'll talk about it after. Check it out.
This is,
it's reckless.
Well, this is a, sort of cheap talk to get around the fundamental problem, which is the bipartisan commission chaired by Jimmy Carter and James Baker said back in 2009 that mail-in voting is fraught with the risk of fraud and coercion.
But since then, there have been
until
a lot
this
of investigations that haven't proved it.
Let me talk.
Yeah, please.
And since that time, there have been, in the newspapers, in networks, academic studies saying it is open to fraud and coercion. The only time the narrative changed is after this administration came in. But elections that have been held with mail have found substantial fraud and coercion. For example, we indicted someone in Texas, 1,700 ballots collected from people who could vote. He made them out and voted for the person he wanted to. Okay? Because that kind of thing happens with mail-in ballots, and everyone knows
But there are individual cases, but as far as widespread fraud, we haven't seen that since...
well, we haven't had the kind of widespread use of mail-in ballots that's being proposed. We've had absentee ballots from people who request them from a specific address. Now what we're talking about is mailing them to everyone on the voter list when everyone knows those voter lists are inaccurate. People who should get them don't get them, which is what has been one of the major complaints in states that have tried this in municipal elections. And people who get them are not the right people. They're people who have replaced the previous occupant, and they can make them out. And sometimes multiple ballots come to the same address with a whole several generations of occupants. Do you think that's a way to run a vote?
Well, the only thing I'm saying is that so far we haven't seen widespread fraud. But
so far we haven't tried it. Well, and the point is...
But a lot of us... there are several states that only have mail-in voting, including a Republican
Well,
state
this
like
is
Utah.
playing with fire. This is playing with fire. We're a very closely divided country here. And if people have to have confidence in the results of the election and the legitimacy of the government, and people trying to change the rules to this methodology, which, as a matter of logic, is very open to fraud and coercion, is reckless and dangerous. And the people are playing with fire.
Well, there he is, Attorney General Barr. He's not my favorite guy. And Wolf Blitzer with the whole... ladies and gentlemen, I hope you catch on to what the Democratic Party and the establishment are doing through their media. It's quite disgusting. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, well, we haven't had a mass, scandal. Listen, Jimmy Carter said it, and Attorney General said it, and he really said it's kind of unfair to get away from the fundamental issues of the elections. The only thing he was really wrong about is when he said absentee ballots are okay. Mail-in ballots are a form of absentee ballots. But however, that has been the one area of concern if you're an election integrity activist, as well as a couple areas, but heavy concern, because if you look at these things, there's no security on these ballots. Anybody can just make these ballots out and pretty much pass them on, fake ballots, to sway the election either way. Over a year ago, the Convo Couch was on the case, calling our registrar, asking them questions, and we found out that this area is just ripe for fraud. And it's not the point that it's Donald Trump that's saying it or Attorney General Barr is saying it. Yeah, he might be saying it to protect his own ass, but who cares? They're actually bringing out the fundamental problem. What is the Democrats doing in Kamala Harris? They're talking about Russia again. Russia. I mean, there's so many things we need to fix our elections, ladies and gentlemen, and this is one area we need to get in there and look at it good. Not only the tabulation machines that have proprietary software that we're not allowed to look at, that all these companies that we go after anyways have actually worked in auditing simulations and everything. It's our legislation's not doing it. They're not even going by that. They're not even trying to look and get a fair election. They want to manipulate the elections. Let me be clear. Computers don't cheat an election. People using computers cheat an election. So even though that area is a problem, mail-in is very ripe for fraud. Like I said, you can't track these ballots. We had on Dr. Rebecca Mercury, who talked about this situation. She actually does a seminar every year at the University of Maryland when she talks about financial tracking and financial security on money, on personal checks, all that stuff, and how it relates to our elections. And she says that what we have for our elections is a joke. So Jimmy Carter talked about it in 2009 with Jim Baker. We need to get this election thing straight, ladies and gentlemen. In Los Angeles, we contract our mail-in absentee ballots off to a company called K&H located in Washington. Ridiculous. Nobody checks those things. And whether you like it or not, Barr is also correct about the voter rolls, which a lot of people are saying Trump's trying to steal the election by messing with the voter rolls. Excuse me? Those voter rolls need to be updated, and they need to be updated properly. The Democratic Party has been awful with those voter rolls. How are you going to trust them and say that Trump is moving with people from the voter rolls to steal the election when it's the same person that you cheated in the primary? And whether we like it or not, whether it be, like I said, Donald Trump and AG Barr, whether it be the Republicans, ladies and gentlemen, we need to get our election straight. There's so much stuff going on. And I'm glad that I'm bringing attention to it and talking about it. We need to have this discussion, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get our mail-in straight. Also, another thing when it comes to elections, the other day, Bernie Sanders tweeted out something stupid, like actually advocating for counting ballots early. And I know you people go, oh, that makes sense. We should count them early so we shouldn't be so far behind. It doesn't work like that way. If you understand, the election takes a while waiting for absentee ballots to come in. In other words, the fast counting tabulation machines, after they count the first initial ballots that are entered in the machine, mail-in ballots the day of election, while counting the ballots that come in from actual in-person voting, they're sitting for a while waiting for more ballots to be counted. So we don't need to count them early. And if you ask why we shouldn't count them early, I'll tell you why. Each county either has an elected Republican or Democrat who runs that election. If they're given early information about what the vote counts are, they can then concentrate in areas to say, okay, we're losing to Donald Trump in this area. Let's get our people to get people out to the polls and hit in that area. Or on the back end, since we control the election, we can disqualify ballots in the mail-in process and kick it to the end and then bury them and get rid of them later. You know what I'm saying? If it's a Republican that has that early advantage, they can say, well, let's jam up the polls. Let's not have ballots in this area. You know what I'm saying? Let's run out of ballots here and there. You can't give early information. There's no need for that. You're playing with fire once again. And I understand it might seem logical, but if you know the elections inside and out, this was just a careless tweet by Bernie Sanders. I really question where he's at nowadays. I mean, if you look at the Raji Robb situation, and we've been following that, this is a gentleman who ran for Congress against Brad Sherman. And how do you think that they're always able, the Democrats, to call their primaries 6 hours before the polls close with a ton of people in line? Oh, they go, oh, we have the mail-in information so we can call the election right now. Raji caught these people saying that they were tabulating their ballots early, which is illegal. You're not allowed to do that. There's reasons for that. And it shouldn't be messed with. So anyways, I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue to talk about the elections as they're going on until through Election Day. We're going to point out these fundamental issues that we need to talk about. Mail-in voting right now. Don't get caught up on Donald Trump trying to sack the post office to win the election. It's a bunch of malarkey. I hate to quote Joe Biden, but it really is a bunch of bullshit. Okay, the mail-in sorting machines are not going to stop the mail-in ballots from coming on in. He's not going to cut them off early. There's a date to get them done. And most of your mail-in ballot goes in early anyways. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think it's kind of odd that Joe Biden got 20-something, 27%, 28% of the vote in Los Angeles when he was polling at less than 8%. And most of that voting was early voting, mail-in voting. Think about it. You can't just say it's okay to go after one side when you think they're cheating and not go after the other. The Democrats have been awful at this, and we need to call them out. And more importantly, we need to come together as a nation and fix our mail-in ballots fix our tabulation situation, fix the actual mellifluousness of these elections. A kid in UCLA shouldn't have to wait 6 hours to vote. He's going to be deterred to vote. We need to have a serious, fundamental talk of our elections and all, and we need to get it straight, because once we get that straight, we'll get populist candidates in there that will get us what we need. I hate to see what's going on to the youth today with all these school loans, how they're being sacked. You can't even write those off in bankruptcy. I mean, you're just going to be in so much trouble. And that's why they're making it hard for you to vote. That's why they're stealing the votes. And I'm not an ageist. I kind of talk about it all the time. But Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and all these people, they need to go. And we need to get some people in there that are going to fight for us. But we won't get those people in there if we don't have fair elections. And whether you like it or not, the Democrats cheat just as much as the Republicans. So let's get it together. Let's talk about our mail-in voting. If you have any questions, I've been hitting up on my Twitter and explaining to people. I started explaining to people how early counting can advantage one side over the other. There's a lot of other things I'd like to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any questions, hit me up on my Twitter at YoPasta. And, of course, you can hit Fiorella up and Jonny Tsunami. We all know about this election stuff. We all follow it. We run around the country doing it, and we're not going to stop. And we're definitely not going to stop talking about it until the election. For Pasta Jardula and the Convo Couch, I love you guys. Convo later.